on stage. All right, great. So what you're looking at here are sketches by Leonardo da Vinci in the early 1500s of the moon using his newly discovered telescope. At that point, people were only looking at the moon with their naked eye, and at this point we were starting to really study the moon more on a scientific level. So my name is Haym Benoraya, the faculty of the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at Rutgers in New Jersey, and I'm here to talk about lunar bases, give you an overview of what they're about and some of the difficulties that we encounter to design them, and hopefully in 10 years we'll be there. So to get there, we need rockets. Robert Goddard, you see there, with the first launch of his liquid-fueled rocket in 1926. He was known as the father of American rocketry, but rocketry was being developed all over the world in the early 1900s. So Jules Verne was very visionary. On the right you see another visionary, Arthur C. Clarke, from one of his books showing a potential lunar settlement, and you'll see some of the structures I'll show you later. These structures are shells because these are very strong structures because of their shape. So the 1960s saw the space race between the Soviets and the Americans. Yuri Gagarin was the first person in space, and Neil Armstrong there at the top was the first man on the moon. Harrison Schmitt at the bottom was the last man on the moon, the Apollo era. So these are some sketches of lunar bases. You can see they're soup cans, horizontal cylinders. They're all pressurized so that people can walk inside without using spacesuits. They're also covered with regolith, the lunar soil, to shield against a very harsh lunar environment. This is a concept of an inflatable structure. We like inflatable structures because we can put them in small packages and rockets, bring them to the moon, inflate them, rigidize them, and then here you see a 6-level base. Perhaps that's a second-generation base. Some ideas for what to do on the moon. Shimizu, a Japanese company, would like to put a solar panel around the lunar equator, like a belt, and then beam power back to Earth or for local sources. On the right is a Japanese concept of a lunar base. Other things we'll do on the moon, on the far side, we'd like to have an astronomical facility that shields us from the Earth noise. As structural engineers, we have to be able to build these kind of structures in that environment, a very challenging environment for all kinds of instrumentation. Space tourism, here's a lunar Hilton concept from 1990. So we see the inside of the base with some of the crater exposed. On the right side, there's the base, and some huge meteorite coming toward you. So if it's not exciting enough to be on the moon, maybe a meteorite will make it exciting. Here's a large, very large facility for sports. The Lunar 16G would allow you to do six times as much what you can do on Earth. Jump 60 feet in the air, hang glide, throw your pal over the coast. Anyway, so here's another inflatable structure. This is a TransHab, which is a NASA concept, licensed by Bigelow Aerospace. One of these is now docked at the space station for 2 years of trials to test the materials that are there and how they can deal with a harsh environment. Eventually, a lunar base can be made out of one of those. Here are 2 inflatable lunar structures with greenhouses in the back. So this might be for approximately 20 people permanently inhabiting the lunar surface. The greenhouses, because we need plants for oxygen and food. You can see the greenhouse there on the left. On the right side, you see astronauts unrolling a solar panel in a crater, using it as a solar collector for energy. On the moon, you have 2 weeks of daylight, 2 weeks of nighttime, so solar power is a great source of energy. Eventually, we think that our lunar bases will be underground. On the right, you see a photograph of a lava tube. They're newly discovered. The one you see there is almost 300 feet in diameter, about 150 feet deep. These large volumes are very valuable because they allow us to build underground eventually. Eventually, we have to build using robots because astronauts can't survive on the lunar surface too much. This robot here you see is using local resources to build a structure completely autonomously. Some of the challenges for the robots is the regolith, which is a very deadly material. It gets into all the joints. Here's another, this is actually a Soviet concept of a buried structure. You can see the one at the bottom, a very vast structure built by robots and then covered with regolith, the lightweight structure. So this is a huge city for hundreds of people, and eventually that's how we might live there. So at Rutgers, we're working on simple designs. This igloo-shaped structure, you can see on the left the regolith forces acting down, on the right the internal pressurization. So it turns out that the internal pressurization is the critical loading on these structures as far as the design goes. So we do a thermal analysis. We have very large temperature extremes on the surface. On the top you see lunar noon with the hot and cold sides, and the arrows on the top right you can see where heat is coming out of the structure because it's much colder outside. And at the bottom you can see, you could have seen how it looks at midnight. So robots, local resources, low gravity effects on humans, going to the moon first instead of Mars, and benefits for all on Earth. So feel free to contact me if you want more details. There's a lot more details than what's there.